The Tellarite Queen Andromeda sobbed as a primitive human pulled her from the flaming wreckage of her starship, while on the alien homeworld, the Tellarite King Orion watched the live video feed in stunned disbelief, his claws digging gouges into the control panel. "Orion's going to lose his mind when he sees a human touching Andromeda," Draco muttered, his whiskers twitching as he watched the unimaginable situation unfold on the view screen. The high-ranking Tellarite diplomat shook his head. "I still can't believe it. The Celestia was our most advanced ship. Sabotage is the only explanation for a complete engine failure like that. Someone wanted Andromeda dead." "It was just supposed to be a routine diplomatic mission to Epsilon Eridani," Zephyr said in a hushed voice. "Thank the gods the ship crashed on EE-42. If the humans hadn't been there..." "Every Tellarite on that ship would be dead," Draco finished grimly. 50 of our people gone because of one crashed ship." On the screen, dozens of humans swarmed over the wreckage, pulling out the wounded Tellarites one by one. Their primitive mechs lifted away pieces of debris, while medics treated the injured aliens. "Look at them," Zephyr murmured. "They've only just discovered space travel, and yet they're organizing a rescue mission for a species they didn't even know existed. And that human leader, Austin Dixon, he led them right into the flames. He saved Andromeda himself." Draco nodded. "The humans have courage, I'll give them that, but will it be enough to save them from Orion's wrath?" The two diplomats fell silent as they watched the disaster unfold. The fragile peace between their species hung in the balance. If the humans failed in their rescue attempt, it could mean war. And if they succeeded, well, Orion would see that as an even greater insult. A primitive species daring to lay hands on his precious queen. The repercussions would be catastrophic. The humans had no idea what they'd started, but they were about to find out. Draco took a deep breath. When King Orion first heard about the Celestia crashing on EE-42, he went ballistic. He was absolutely convinced the humans had orchestrated the whole thing just to capture Queen Andromeda. "But that's insane," Zephyr exclaimed. "Why would they do that?" "Exactly. But you know how paranoid Orion can be. He was ready to declare war on the spot." Draco shook his head. But then something incredible happened. That human leader, Austin Dixon, reached out directly to the king. Zephyr's eyes widened. "He did what? How did a primitive human even know how to contact the Tellarite homeworld?" "I have no idea, but he did, and he was so humble. He introduced himself as the leader of the EE-42 settlement and explained that they had picked up the Celestia's distress signal. He said they launched a rescue mission immediately because it was the right thing to do. Helping those in need was their moral obligation, as he put it." "Incredible," Zephyr murmured. Dixon assured King Orion that the Queen and her crew were safe and being cared for by their best doctors. He even offered to personally escort the Tellarite delegation back home once the Celestia was repaired. Can you believe that? A primitive human offering to play bodyguard to the most powerful Tellarites in the galaxy? Zephyr shook his head in wonder. The sheer gall of it, but also the compassion, the diplomacy. It's astounding that a species so young could grasp the nuances of interstellar politics so quickly. Indeed, King Orion's anger turned to pure shock. I don't think anyone has ever spoken to him like that before, with such respect and yet such boldness. Draco chuckled. The humans must have remarkable technology to repair a ship as advanced as the Celestia, Zephyr mused, especially given their level of development. At that, Draco outright laughed. "Oh, that's the best part. They didn't use any advanced technology. They patched the ship up with their own limited resources and pure ingenuity. Carbon fiber, titanium alloys, materials we consider practically archaic." Zephyr's jaw dropped. "You're joking." "I'm absolutely serious. The humans' determination and resourcefulness allowed them to overcome their technological limitations. They saved our people with nothing but grit and some outdated materials." Draco shook his head, still marveling at it. "Unbelievable," Zephyr said. Orion must be reeling, to be indebted to a species he considered so far beneath him. Oh, he is, but he's also intrigued, we all are. The humans have proven themselves to be far more than we ever imagined. Draco leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. So what happened during the 2 weeks Queen Andromeda was stranded on EE-42 with the humans? Zephyr asked, leaning forward eagerly. Well, first off, he had specialized accommodations built just for the Tellarites, an entire atmospheric chamber that perfectly replicated their native environment down to the moisture levels and air composition. Dixon brought in experts from all over Earth to get it just right. Zephyr blinked in surprise. That's incredibly thoughtful and resourceful given their limited technology. Draco nodded. And that's not all. Dixon organized these amazing cultural exchange programs. Tellarite engineers worked side by side with human scientists, sharing knowledge and learning from each other. Our people were fascinated by human ingenuity, while the humans soaked up advanced Tellarite tech like sponges. Remarkable. And the Queen? How did she fare among the humans? She was absolutely amazed by their medical capabilities, especially for such a young species. Did you know they're already using nanobots for targeted drug delivery and tissue regeneration? Zephyr's eyes widened. Nanobots, but that's... We didn't develop that technology until a century after we achieved interstellar travel. Exactly. Dixon made sure Queen Andromeda had access to their finest doctors and medical facilities. She said she learned more in those 2 weeks than in years of studying Tellarite medicine. Draco shook his head in wonder. Unbelievable. The humans are full of surprises. Oh, and get this. Dixon even had human chefs work with Tellarite nutritionists to create custom meals for the Queen and her crew. They used a mix of Earth ingredients and our own nutritional supplements to cater to Tellarite dietary needs. The Queen said it was some of the best food she's ever had. Zephyr sat back, marveling at the lengths the humans had gone to. That level of hospitality and cross-species cooperation, it's practically unheard of, even among the most advanced civilizations. The humans adapted so quickly to accommodate a species they'd never encountered before. It's astounding. Draco leaned forward conspiratorially. You know, there are whispers that King Orion is considering a formal alliance with EE-42. Some even say he wants to establish an embassy there. Zephyr's jaw dropped. An embassy? On a primitive world like Earth? That's unprecedented. Indeed, Draco said with a knowing smile. But that's not all. During the Queen's stay on EE-42, something quite remarkable happened. Zephyr leaned forward, his whiskers twitching with curiosity. Oh, do tell. Well, it seems that Queen Andromeda and Austin Dixon developed a close friendship during those 2 weeks. Draco's eyes sparkled with mirth. A friendship? Between a Tellarite queen and a human leader? Zephyr's voice was laced with disbelief. Draco nodded. Oh yes, they spent hours upon hours in deep conversation, discussing their respective cultures, histories, and the challenges they faced as leaders. Fascinating. What sorts of things did they talk about? Dixon shared stories of Earth's tumultuous past, you know. The wars and conflicts that nearly tore their planet apart before they finally achieved global unity. Draco's tone grew somber, and Queen Andromeda confided in him about the political pressures she faces back home. Zephyr's ears perked up. Political pressures? Yes, there's a growing faction of isolationists who oppose her efforts to establish diplomatic ties with other species. They want Tellar to retreat from the galactic stage. Short-sighted fools, Zephyr muttered. So these conversations, they brought Dixon and Andromeda closer together. Indeed. Through their discussions, they discovered a deep mutual respect and admiration for each other's leadership qualities and personal strengths. A true meeting of minds. Draco smiled. Zephyr's eyes suddenly widened. Wait a minute, are you suggesting, was there a romantic attraction between them? At that, Draco threw his head back and laughed heartily. Ha! No, nothing like that. While they certainly developed a strong bond, it was one of friendship and mutual understanding. Nothing more. Ah, I see. Zephyr looked slightly abashed. I suppose a romantic relationship would be impossible anyway, given the vast biological differences between our species. Quite right, Draco agreed. But the friendship they forged, it's no less significant. In fact, I'd say it's even more remarkable. To think, a primitive human earning the respect and trust of the Tellarite Queen herself. Zephyr shook his head in wonder. It's extraordinary. The implications of such a friendship, the potential for future alliances and cooperation between our species. Exactly. Austin Dixon has opened a door that we never even knew existed. The humans have proven themselves to be far more than mere primitives. They're a force to be reckoned with, and potentially a valuable ally. The two diplomats fell silent for a moment, contemplating the incredible turn of events. The rescue of the Celestia had started as a disaster, but it had ended with a glimmer of hope for the future. A future in which humans and Tellarites might stand together as friends and equals. Draco's communicator suddenly chirped, startling them both. He glanced down at the incoming message, his eyes widening in surprise. By the gods, it's from King Orion himself. Zephyr gasped. The king? What does it say? Zephyr leaned forward eagerly. And what of King Orion's reaction when Queen Andromeda returned to Tellar Prime? Surely he must have been relieved to have her back safe and sound. Draco's expression turned thoughtful. Initially, the king was quite skeptical of the humans' motives. He suspected they may have orchestrated the rescue as a ploy to gain access to our technology or establish a foothold in our territory. A reasonable concern, Zephyr acknowledged. Our tech is far beyond what the humans possess. It would be a tempting prize. A gift? Zephyr's brows rose in surprise. What sort of gift could a primitive human offer that would sway the king's opinion? A smile tugged at Draco's lips. It was a sculpture, crafted from the very wreckage of the Celestia. It depicted a human hand reaching out to a Tellarite hand in a gesture of friendship and solidarity. Zephyr's eyes widened. Symbolic, powerful. The humans are more perceptive than I gave them credit for. That's not all, Draco continued. The sculpture was accompanied by a message from Dixon, a heartfelt expression of his hope that this incident would mark the beginning of a long and prosperous relationship between our species. And the king's reaction? He was moved, Draco said simply, impressed by Dixon's sincerity. In that moment, any lingering doubts about the human's intentions vanished. Zephyr shook his head in wonder. To think, a simple gesture of goodwill from a primitive species could have such an impact on our king. It was more than just a gesture, Draco insisted. It was a demonstration of the humans' character, their compassion, their desire for peaceful cooperation, qualities we Tellarites value highly. So what did the king do? He immediately ordered our diplomats to establish formal relations with Earth. An invitation was extended to a delegation of human leaders, inviting them to Tellar Prime for a summit. Zephyr gasped. A summit with humans on our homeworld, that's unprecedented. Draco grinned. Unprecedented, yes, but also a significant shift in our foreign policy. We've always been hesitant to engage with other species beyond basic trade agreements, but the king sees the potential in allying with the humans. Their resourcefulness, their adaptability. They could be valuable partners. Partners, Zephyr repeated, testing the word. Not just allies, but equals. Zephyr fell silent, contemplating the magnitude of this development. The Tellarites, a species that had long prided itself on its superiority, was now preparing to embrace a primitive race as equals. It was a staggering shift, one that would have been unthinkable mere weeks ago. And yet, as Zephyr reflected on all that had transpired, the rescue, the cultural exchange, the budding friendship between Queen Andromeda and Austin Dixon, he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement, of possibility. The humans had surprised them all, and Zephyr had a feeling they would continue to do so, in ways none of them could yet imagine. Draco's communicator chirped again, jolting Zephyr from his thoughts. The other diplomat glanced down at the device, his eyes widening. Another message from the king? Zephyr asked. Draco shook his head. No, it's from the human delegation. They've just arrived in orbit around Teller Prime. Zephyr leaned forward, his eyes wide with anticipation. The human delegation has arrived. This is a momentous occasion. Draco nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Indeed it is, and you'll never guess who's leading the delegation. None other than Austin Dixon himself. Zephyr's jaw dropped. Dixon, the leader of the EE-42 settlement, the one who rescued Queen Andromeda. The very same, Draco confirmed. Apparently he made quite an impression on King Orion during the rescue operation. The king personally requested that Dixon lead the human delegation. Zephyr shook his head in wonder. Incredible. A primitive human leading a diplomatic mission to Teller Prime. Who would have thought? Draco chuckled. It gets better. The summit is scheduled to last for 10 days. 10 days of intensive negotiations, cultural exchanges, and scientific collaborations. 10 days, Zephyr repeated, his eyes bulging. That's unprecedented. We've never hosted a delegation for that long, let alone one from a primitive species. Exactly. But King Orion is determined to make this summit a success. He sees it as an opportunity to forge a lasting partnership with the humans. Zephyr nodded thoughtfully. It makes sense. The humans have already proven their worth as allies, their bravery, their ingenuity. If we can harness those qualities, it could be a game-changer for the Tellarite Confederation. That's the idea, Draco agreed. And Dixon is the key to making it happen. He's the bridge between our two species. He understands our culture, our values, in a way that few outsiders ever have. But how will the Tellarite nobility react to a human ambassador? Zephyr wondered aloud. You know how strict they are about protocol and tradition. Draco's expression turned serious. You're right. There has been some resistance to the idea of a human ambassador. Some of the more conservative members of the court see it as a threat to our way of life. But surely they must recognize the benefits of an alliance with Earth. Some do, Draco acknowledged, but others are blinded by their own prejudices. They see the humans as inferior, as a species to be exploited rather than respected. Zephyr frowned. That's short-sighted. The humans have already proven themselves to be valuable allies. To dismiss them out of hand would be a grave mistake. I agree, but convincing the nobility won't be easy. It will take all of Dixon's diplomatic skills to win them over. If anyone can do it, it's Dixon, Zephyr said confidently. He has a way with people, a natural charisma that transcends species boundaries. Draco nodded. Indeed, and he'll need every ounce of that charisma in the days ahead. The summit will be a test of his abilities, both as a leader and as a diplomat. Zephyr leaned back in his chair, his mind racing with possibilities. Just think of what we could accomplish together. Humans and Tellarites, working side by side, sharing knowledge, resources, technology. It's a brave new world, Draco agreed, and Dixon is at the forefront of it all. The future of our species may very well rest on his shoulders. The two diplomats fell silent for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts. The arrival of the human delegation marked a turning point in Tellarite history, a chance to forge a new path, to build a better future for all. But as with any great change, there would be challenges along the way, obstacles to overcome, prejudices to confront. It would take courage, determination, and an unwavering belief in the power of diplomacy to see it through. And in that moment, both Draco and Zephyr knew that there was no one better suited to the task than Austin Dixon. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance. The summit would decide it all. Draco's communicator chirped again, breaking the silence. He glanced down at the incoming message, his eyes widening in surprise. What is it? Zephyr asked, leaning forward eagerly. Another update? Draco shook his head, a grin spreading across his face. No, it's a personal message from Austin Dixon himself. Zephyr's eyebrows shot up. Dixon, what does he say? Draco scanned the message quickly, his smile widening with each passing second. He wants to meet with us, privately, before the summit begins. Zephyr leaned back, his eyes wide with curiosity. The Human Tellarite Alliance must have had quite an impact on the galactic stage. What happened after the summit? Draco's expression grew thoughtful. The alliance had far-reaching consequences, Zephyr. News of the rescue and the summit spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy. Many civilizations took notice of humanity's rapid rise to prominence. I can imagine, Zephyr said. The humans went from being a primitive, isolated species to key players in galactic politics practically overnight. Draco nodded. Some species, like the Arcturians and the Syrians, were eager to establish ties with Earth. They saw the humans as valuable allies and trading partners. No, Draco confirmed. Some were wary of humanity's growing influence. They feared the humans might upset the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. Zephyr's brow furrowed. Let me guess, the Zorgons weren't too happy about the alliance. Draco's expression darkened. The Zorgons have long been the dominant power in this sector. They saw humanity as a threat to their hegemony. What did they do? They engaged in a series of provocative actions, staging mock attacks on human and Tellarite ships, spreading disinformation about the alliance. Draco shook his head. They were trying to undermine the partnership, to drive a wedge between our species. Zephyr's whiskers twitched with concern. That must have been a tense time. How did the alliance respond? A smile tugged at Draco's lips. Austin Dixon. In his role as ambassador, he played a key role in diffusing tensions with the Zorgons. He used a combination of diplomacy and strategic maneuvering. He met with Zorgon leaders, listened to their concerns, and found ways to address them without compromising the alliance. Zephyr leaned forward, intrigued. Give me an example. Well, the Zorgons were concerned about the humans' rapid technological advancement. They feared Earth might soon surpass them militarily. A valid concern, Zephyr acknowledged. Indeed, but Dixon proposed a solution. He suggested a series of joint research projects between human, Tellarite, and Zorgon scientists, a way to share knowledge and ensure no one species gained an unfair advantage. Zephyr's eyes widened. That's brilliant. A way to promote cooperation and ease tensions all at once. Draco nodded. The Zorgons were skeptical at first, but Dixon's sincerity and openness won them over. They agreed to the proposal. Incredible, Zephyr murmured. Dixon's diplomatic skills must be truly exceptional. They are, Draco agreed. His handling of the Zorgon crisis earned him great respect and admiration among our people. Many Tellarites hailed him as a hero, a true friend of our species. Zephyr's jaw dropped. The Galactic Peace Prize, but that's the highest honor the Interstellar Council can bestow. Draco grinned. Exactly. And Dixon would be the first human to receive it, a true testament to his accomplishments and the impact of the Human Tellarite Alliance. Zephyr's eyes widened as Draco revealed the latest development in the extraordinary saga of human Tellarite relations. Dixon, the godfather of Prince Rigel? That's unprecedented. Draco nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Indeed it is. When Queen Andromeda and King Orion announced the birth of their son, the entire planet rejoiced. But the real surprise came when they named Dixon as the child's godfather. A role traditionally reserved for the highest-ranking members of the Tellarite nobility, Zephyr mused, shaking his head in wonder. For a human to be granted such an honor, it speaks volumes about the depth of the bond between Dixon and the royal family. It does, Draco agreed. Dixon was humbled by the request, but he accepted without hesitation. He understood the significance of the gesture, not just for himself, but for the future of human Tellarite relations. Zephyr leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. So what exactly does being a godfather entail in Tellarite culture? Draco's expression grew thoughtful. It's a role that goes beyond mere symbolism. A godfather is expected to take an active part in the child's upbringing, to guide and mentor them as they grow. And Dixon took this responsibility seriously. Oh, very much so, Draco confirmed. As Prince Rigel grew older, Dixon made sure to be a constant presence in his life. He taught the young prince about human culture, history, and values. Zephyr's whiskers twitched with interest. Really, how so? Well, for starters, Dixon arranged for Prince Rigel to visit Earth on several occasions. He wanted the prince to experience human society firsthand, to see the diversity and richness of our cultures. That must have been quite an experience for a young Tellarite, Zephyr remarked. Draco nodded. Indeed it was. Prince Rigel was exposed to a wide range of human experiences and perspectives. He visited our great cities, our museums, our schools. He even spent time living with human families, immersing himself in their daily lives. Draco's eyes sparkled with pride. A profound one. Prince Rigel grew up to be a strong advocate for interspecies cooperation and understanding. He often speaks of how his time on Earth opened his eyes to the potential for peaceful coexistence between different cultures. Zephyr sat back, his mind racing with the implications. If Prince Rigel were to ascend to the throne with such views, it could mark a significant shift in Tellarite foreign policy. Draco leaned forward, his voice low and conspiratorial. That's exactly what many of us are hoping for. Imagine a future where the Tellarites are not just open to alliances with other species, but actively seeking them out. A future where we work together to solve the great challenges facing the galaxy. Zephyr nodded, a smile spreading across his face. And to think it all started with a crashed ship and a daring rescue mission by a primitive species. Draco chuckled. The universe works in mysterious ways, my friend. Who could have guessed that a simple act of compassion by the humans would have such far-reaching consequences? The two diplomats fell silent for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts about the incredible journey that had brought their species to this point. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The bond between humans and Tellarites, forged in the fires of adversity and tempered by acts of kindness and understanding, would shape the course of galactic history for generations to come. Zephyr broke the silence, his voice filled with a mix of wonder and anticipation. What else has Prince Rigel done to promote interspecies cooperation? Draco's expression brightened as he began to recount some of the prince's most notable achievements. Well, there was the time he convinced King Orion to establish a joint human Tellarite research station on the... Draco leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. You know, Zephyr, I think Austin Dixon's influence on the Tellarites goes far beyond just his role as Prince Rigel's godfather. Zephyr's ears perked up. Oh, how so? Well, as the alliance between humans and Tellarites deepened, Dixon became increasingly involved in our politics. He served as a trusted advisor to Queen Andromeda and King Orion on a wide range of issues. Exactly, Draco agreed. His unique insights and problem-solving skills proved crucial in navigating the complex web of galactic diplomacy. He played a key role in brokering several important treaties and agreements between our species and others. Impressive, Zephyr murmured. But I imagine not everyone was thrilled about a human having such influence in Tellarite affairs. Draco's expression darkened. You're right. One of Dixon's most significant contributions came during a period of internal strife within our government. A faction of conservative nobles, led by Duke Zorgax, had become increasingly opposed to the alliance with humans. They saw it as a threat to Tellarite traditions and values, Zephyr guessed. Precisely. Zorgax and his followers began to agitate for a return to isolationism. There were fears they might even attempt to overthrow the monarchy. Zephyr's eyes widened. That could have been disastrous for the alliance. Draco nodded grimly. It could have been, but Dixon, working closely with Queen Andromeda and a group of loyal nobles, developed a plan to outmaneuver Zorgax. Through a series of deft political moves and strategic alliances, they managed to isolate the conservative faction and gradually erode their support base. It was a delicate operation, but Dixon's understanding of Tellarite politics was key. Zephyr shook his head in amazement, and in the end? That's incredible, Zephyr said. Dixon's political acumen is truly remarkable. He seems to have a natural talent for diplomacy and strategy. Draco smiled. I think his skills were honed through his experiences as a leader on Earth. From what I understand, he had to navigate some pretty complex social and political landscapes to achieve his goals there. Indeed, Draco agreed. His contributions to the Tellarite-Human Alliance have been immeasurable, and I suspect we haven't seen the last of his influence. Zephyr leaned forward, intrigued. What do you mean? Draco's eyes sparkled with a hint of mischief. Let's just say that Dixon's role in Tellarite affairs may be about to take an even more interesting turn, but that's a story for another time. Zephyr sat back, his mind whirling with the implications of Draco's words. It seemed that the Human-Tellarite Alliance, and Austin Dixon's place within it, was far from finished evolving. The future held untold possibilities, and Zephyr couldn't wait to see what new surprises it might bring. Zephyr's expression darkened as Draco recounted the devastating attack on the Tellarite capital. The Terran supremacy movement, he murmured, shaking his head in disbelief. I never imagined that humans could be capable of such treachery. Draco nodded grimly. It was a shocking betrayal. The TSM had been secretly building their fleet for years, hiding their activities from the rest of the human government. When they struck, the Tellarites were caught completely unprepared. And King Orion? Zephyr asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Killed in the initial assault, Draco confirmed. The palace was one of the first targets. Queen Andromeda was gravely injured trying to protect him. Zephyr closed his eyes, his heart heavy with sorrow. Poor Austin Dixon. To have worked so hard to build this alliance, only to see it shattered by his own people. He was devastated, Draco said. He rushed to the palace as soon as he heard about the attack, but by the time he got there, it was too late. The Queen was dying. What did she say to him? She begged him to save Prince Rigel, to protect him and keep the dream of their alliance alive, even in the face of this tragedy. Zephyr nodded slowly. And Dixon, what did he do? He took the prince and fled, Draco said. With the city burning around them and the TSM ships closing in, he had no choice. He knew that if the prince fell into their hands, all hope for the future would be lost. So he raised the boy as his own, Zephyr murmured, hidden away from the world, keeping him safe until the time was right. Exactly, Draco said. Dixon devoted his life to protecting Rigel and preparing him for the day when he would return to claim his rightful place as leader of the Tellarite people. Zephyr leaned forward, his eyes intense. And what of the TSM? Surely they were punished for their crimes. They were, Draco confirmed. The international community condemned their actions and hunted down their leaders. Many were brought to justice, but the damage had been done. The alliance lay in ruins, and the trust between our species was shattered. The two friends fell silent for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Zephyr spoke. Do you think there's still hope, he asked, for the alliance, for peace between our peoples? Draco sighed. I don't know, he admitted, but if anyone can find a way forward, it's Prince Rigel. He has the wisdom of his parents, the guidance of Austin Dixon, and the strength of both our species in his blood. The two friends lapsed into silence once more, each pondering the weight of the story they had just shared. The fate of their worlds hung in the balance, and the path ahead was uncertain. But in the midst of the darkness, a flicker of hope still burned, and as long as that hope remained, anything was possible. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.